Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving deep today into something that, well, touches pretty much everyone, doesn't it? Our relationship with money. And it often feels like this big puzzle we just can't quite solve.
Yeah.
You work hard, but the money just seems to evaporate.
Yeah, it's a common frustration.
Right. So this deep dive is based on some really interesting excerpts from a source. And it suggests the key to mastering your financial life might not just be in spreadsheets or fancy apps. It starts maybe closer to home, with your mindset.
That's what's really striking about this material. It offers, well, a pretty distinct perspective.
Okay.
It suggests looking at your bank account not just as, a record of income and expenses, but more like a mirror.
A mirror.
Yeah, reflecting your actual mindset about money. It definitely challenges the usual way of thinking.
Absolutely. So our mission here in this deep dive is to pull out those core ideas from the material. We want to explore how your thinking shapes your wealth potential.
Yeah.
Why learning about money is presented as this really critical skill. And also how small, consistent choices every day, how they're framed as the real path to financial freedom. Think of us as guides, sort of walking through these insights with you. We're inviting you to explore them with us, starting right now.
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's jump straight into that central claim the source makes.
Yeah.
Money is more mental than mathematical. That really stood out to me.
It's positioned as the absolute foundation, really. And the way it's illustrated is quite clear. They talk about that common scenario,
Which one?
Two people, same income, right down to the dollar, but one is constantly struggling, maybe even broke,
Yeah, I've seen that.
while the other person is steadily building wealth. And the material argues this huge difference isn't mainly about their job title or the exact salary figure,
It's the mindset.
almost entirely down to their mindset around money. That's the core argument.
And it gets specific too, doesn't it? About the characteristics they see in people who build wealth.
It does, yeah. It points out things like they tend to see problems differently, not as dead ends, but as opportunities.
Got it.
They focus more long-term, beyond just the next paycheck or the next month.
Right, thinking further ahead.
Exactly. And this is crucial. They actually change the internal questions they ask themselves. So instead of thinking, I can't afford this, which is sort of full stop,
Yeah, shuts things down.
right, they shift to asking, okay, how can I afford this? Or maybe, what do I need to do to create the means for this? It opens things up.
That internal shift, the source presents it as incredibly powerful, doesn't it?
Hugely powerful. The argument is basically that your financial reality tends to follow your dominant thoughts. Like,
Oh.
if you're constantly telling yourself, I'm just bad with money or I'll never get ahead, your brain kind of accepts that. It's like, okay, got it, and stops looking for solutions, stops seeing opportunity.
But if you flip it,
Exactly. If you shift that thought to something like, okay, I'm learning, I'm capable of managing my money well, the material suggests your brain starts working on that problem instead. It starts looking for ways, opening up possibilities. Your situation can actually start to change.
the source even throws down a practical challenge, like right away.
Yeah.
It suggests you pick one limiting belief you have about money. It uses the example, I'll always be in debt. Something concrete like that.
Right.
And then you consciously, actively flip it, turn it into a positive, action-focused affirmation. So maybe I am building the habits I need to become debt-free.
And the reason why this is powerful, according to the source, isn't just, wishful thinking.
Yeah.
It's because you're essentially changing the instructions you're giving your subconscious. You're telling it to stop reinforcing the negative belief and start looking for ways to achieve the positive one. It shifts you from a fixed state to an active process.
Okay, that makes sense. So mindset is the bedrock. What's the next layer according to this material? Where do we go from there?
Well, the next big step is framing money management, earning it, growing it as a skill, fundamentally a skill.
Like learning to drive
Yep.
or using a smartphone, something you can actually learn and get better at.
Precisely. And building on that, the key suggestion they make is about dedicating time to learning, even a small amount.
How small?
The material specifically mentions just 15 minutes a day.
Wow. Okay, 15 minutes. That actually feels doable for most people, right?
It does. And the idea is that committing just that small chunk of time daily to learning about money can have this massive outsized impact on your financial future down the road.
Like compound interest, but for knowledge.
Exactly. It's an investment in yourself that compounds over time.
And the source isn't vague about how to do this learning either, is it? He gives concrete suggestions.
No, it's quite practical. It recommends things like reading certain influential books. It specifically names The Psychology of Money and Rich Dad, Poor Dad as examples.
Okay, familiar titles.
Right. Also seeking out financial content creators, but specifically those who give, real, honest, practical advice, not just hype.
Good distinction.
And yes, listening to relevant material, maybe like this deep dive we're doing right now.
Any day, point taken.
And the goal, the stated outcome of all this learning is pretty profound.
Yeah.
Once you actually understand how money works, not just earning, but growing it, protecting it, the whole dynamic shifts. You stop feeling like you're just constantly working for money. And you start understanding how to make money begin working for you. That shift in understanding is presented as a really fundamental lever.
Okay, so mindset first, then building the skill through learning, which leads us, I guess, to the actual outcome. Financial freedom.
That's the destination, yes.
And the material frames this not as some, lottery win or far-off dream for a lucky few.
No, not at all.
But as something built through consistent, small, smart choices, day after day.
Exactly. And it gives concrete examples of what these choices look like. Things like actively tracking your spending, not just letting it happen, but knowing where it goes so you actually gain control.
Okay, awareness.
Building up an emergency fund, that cushion for stability, for peace of mind when life happens. Starting to invest early, even small amounts. It uses the specific example of just $10 a week. How, over time, consistently doing just that can build significant wealth.
Yeah, the power starting early.
Huge. And also making intentional decisions.
Yeah.
Learning to say no sometimes. Saying no to things that don't really align with your bigger goals so you can say a much more powerful yes to your future.
What really struck me about this part of the source material is the emphasis. It's not just about how much you earn.
Right.
It argues quite strongly that financial freedom is much more about discipline, focus, being intentional, making deliberate choices that line up with where you want to go rather than just your income level or getting lucky.
Absolutely. It shifts the focus from external factors you might not control, like salary, to internal factors you do control, like habits and decisions.
Yeah. And there's another point in there that's, I think, incredibly powerful, especially for anyone who feels like, maybe they didn't get this knowledge growing up.
What's that?
The material basically says, look, if nobody in your family taught you how to build wealth, if it wasn't discussed or modeled, you have this unique, really powerful opportunity. You get to be the first. You can be the one who breaks that chain, the one who shifts the cycle, the person who changes the financial trajectory, not just for yourself, but maybe for generations to come.
Wow. Being the chain breaker. That's a compelling idea.
It really is. It reframes your starting point, not as a disadvantage, but as the potential turning point.
Okay, so let's just step back for a second and sort of recap the journey through this source material. We started with the power of your thoughts, right? That mental foundation.
The mindset piece.
Then moved into the necessity of learning, of building that financial skill consciously.
Like any other important skill. And finally, landed on the impact, the real-world effect of making those consistent, small, smart, daily choices.
Yeah, the daily practice.
And the concluding message from this material seems to circle right back to the beginning, doesn't it?
It really does. It strongly reinforces that first idea, that genuinely changing your mind about money is the critical first step.
The indispensable step.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which then makes it possible to change your money situation, and ultimately, that has the power to change your life.
So bringing this back to you, the listener, and maybe building on that really inspiring idea we just talked about, being a chain breaker. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Consider how really taking these principles to heart, actually shifting your mindset, committing to that learning, making those small, intentional choices every day, how that could transform not just your own financial future,
Right.
but how it could potentially ripple outwards, create a lasting positive impact for your family, maybe even further down the line, regardless of where you started financially.
It's a powerful thought, isn't it? Thinking about legacy, about the possibilities you can create starting right now just by changing how you think and act with money.